Welcome everybody, and thank you for having me here. I've sat where you sit today. I've heard countless speeches back in school, in college, and most of them I walked out having learned nothing. I've been a student for a while, so I know how it feels to sit there and watch another speech that adds nothing to your life. I hope this speech is going to be entirely different. It's based entirely on my journey and what I feel is the true mindset that you need to function with sitting where you are today. A lot of us have been told that hard work is all it takes, and that's very true. Sustained, disciplined, focused hard work is a valuable commodity today. We're in an attention economy, and if you can sustain effort, naturally you're going to see a lot of outcome in your life. But is that enough? I would fervently argue that is truly not enough. This is why I say that the harder you push, sometimes you feel so much friction that you can't seem to make any success. You would have also noticed that there are people, and that was me once upon a time as well, that once you start, you're going to start very nicely. You have your certain goals and you want to meet them, but along the way, energy fizzles. You start nicely, along the way, energy fizzles, and you can't seem to sustain it. And then you file it away saying, you know what, I'll get to it someday. When I was getting introduced to the campus grounds and everything, I asked a bunch of students a question. You know that from here to an ideal life, all you need is to show up consistently and daily. If you want to build more muscle, you're going to have to follow a simple structure, show up to the gym 5 days a week, and you're good to go. When the evidence in favor of consistency is so clear, then why do we not follow through? That's exactly what we need to think about. These are some questions that should perturb you on a daily basis. When we are creatures of the divine, right? The divine rests within us. Why do we have such evils within us? Isn't that a question that you must ask yourself? If I am truly a creation of the divine, and I firmly believe I am, why do I have so much ego? Why are there moments when I view others' success? Instead of inspiration, I encounter jealousy within myself. These are all questions that have perturbed me. And the answers to those, I hope, shall be very illuminating for you. I fervently believe that the model is flawed. You think that because you're not working hard, that because you're not consistent, you're not seeing a lot of progress, and you blame yourself. I think the blame is not on yourself, it's on the very model. So far, what we've been taught is, if you want something, you work hard, you go get it. But I can speak of countless advocates who work hard on a daily basis, but they haven't made a lot of progress in life. I can also think of a lot of good humans, conventionally good humans, who haven't made a lot of money, who don't enjoy the material comforts that most humans would want to enjoy. The corrected model is that you need to work on the inner engineering first. It's the inner work that needs to get done before you work on the outer work. So all of us think, and our parents tell us, that you must work hard. But before that, no one reminds us to do the inner work that must precede the hard work. If you do this inner work on a consistent daily basis, I can promise you that your experience of life will be far more elevated, even if the outcome is not that elevated. Now, there's a stern difference between the two. How you perceive life often decides the outcome and not the other way around. This is exactly why where very wealthy people can sometimes have a substandard experience of life, and sometimes people who live in relative mediocrity can have an enhanced experience. You must work on the inner state and your self-image. I want you to think of yourself. You consider yourself a particular person based on the evidence that your past has generated. All the times you failed in the past, all the times you succeeded, all the times you were insulted, all the times you were praised. Every event in your life has created a particular self-image, and that self-image is running the show. If you think you are capable of doing a particular activity, then opportunities appear that favor that perception of yourself. That perception needs to be worked upon. That self-image that you have created is almost like a barometer, the periphery of your capabilities. As soon as you start to go beyond this self-image, there's an automatic handbrake. You see, why do people say you must go to good colleges, hang out with people better than yourselves? It's often because, not only because of the networking, I truly believe they open the dimensions of your mind, that this too is possible. that this amount of abundance is also possible. Now, there are two ways you can experience someone else's abundance. Say you're sitting in someone's palatial house with a big lawn. You might think, oh, I wonder how he did this. I am pretty sure I'd never be able to get here. But there's another side of you that might say, if this is possible for this individual, it's perhaps possible for me as well. This inner work, this reorientation is very important before you begin the work. Because you see, I worked for 2 years at the High Court. I saw my boss work 12 hours a day. And naturally, when the boss is working 12 hours a day, you're expected to work 12 hours a day as well. My parents told me you must work hard. And I knew that hard work is important. But why did I find it so difficult to work hard? When I was working hard, why did it burn me out so much? If hard work was the key, why was I absolutely incapable of it, right? So the answer lay that there was wrong fuel in the engine. If your car has the wrong set of fuel, if you have the clutch semi-pressed, pressing gas on that vehicle is only going to burn it out. And that's exactly what's happening with all of us. You must first function what engine you're working with. Now, number one, this is not a conversation against hard work. I think it's very important. Most of you might have seen my content. I post a daily video. That is my version of showing up daily. So consistent, sustained effort really matters. But if you think you're going to be able to do it effortlessly, that's not going to happen without the requisite work. When my boss can work 12 hours a day effortlessly, and I cannot, it's because we proceed from a different inner architecture. And that's exactly what I urge you guys to work on from today onwards on a daily basis. And how to work on that, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. There's a conscious self that decides to do a particular thing, that has tastes and that has preferences. And there's an unconscious, a subconscious self that is actually running the show. Carl Jung calls this the subconscious contract. Imagine for your life, two people sit down and draft a contract. This is the person that you're going to do, and this is what you're going to study, and this is the sort of car you're going to drive. I don't think you'd be very happy because it's your life. You should be able to write that contract, isn't it? You should be at least a party to it. But because of all the past experiences you've had and the tendency of your brain to focus on the negative, there's a lot of real estate in your mind that has simply focused on failure. So in a sense, this contract has been drafted without your presence. All you need to do is, before you work on the outside, before you start with the hard work, you need to go back into the basement and renegotiate the contract. Some questions to ask yourself are, what sort of perturbs me? What angers me? What successes of others bring jealousy within me? What are instances that make me feel like I'm not such a good man, and what are instances that make me really feel proud of myself? That contract needs to get renegotiated. Before you do that, you're not going to be able to sustain the sort of hard work that you need to bring incredible progress. Now, I want to just quote the importance of inner engineering, right? You might think it's hocus pocus, it's all spirituality, but this is somewhere Western philosophy, Western psychology that works on empirical data and evidence has converged with Eastern spirituality and mysticism. These thinkers, some of them like Baba Nanak, who have stood centuries of scrutiny, have converged on certain fundamental truths, and your life will be suitably enhanced to focus on those truths. If there's a gentleman that can survive a Holocaust, a concentration camp, it is only because of the inner engineering. Now, one of the first actionable tasks that I want to give to you today, any project that you want to crack, any exam, a lot of kids want to sit down for CAT, try to ascribe important meaning to it. Why am I doing this? What sort of future am I likely to build? How am I going to be perceived by the society if I have a follow through? And who am I doing this for? There's somebody, a client of mine recently, and he changed my perspective on everything. He says I was a pretty indisciplined person, and he's an advocate from Delhi. Ever since I've had a child, I've become remarkably disciplined only because my meaning for showing up has changed. I don't show up for myself anymore, I show up for that child. And children are not often relying on what parents are saying, but in fact, parents are doing, right? I have a dog. If I have to wake up early for myself, I'm likely to snooze in and sleep. But if that dog wants to go for a walk, I'm much more likely to wake up. I missed my last 2 vitamin D shots because it's for me. I've never missed medicines for my dog. Any action or project that you ascribe incredible meaning to, and this is what logotherapy is by Viktor Frankl, is likely to get executed very well. Try to ascribe some huge meaning to a particular project that you're working on. As we've already discussed, self-image is very important. Your reticular activating system is processing data that you deem appropriate. Now, when your self-image expands, when you think, I too am capable of this, then that sort of data gets processed. Those opportunities suddenly become visible to you. This is absolute psychology and neuroplasticity in work that you have been missing out. So expand the horizons of your self-image. Go back and ask yourself, what's the most ideal car for me? Right? If you have a particular name, I can bet you it's not the fanciest car out there. You are working within the realm of your self-image, and that's what's running the show. Moving on. When Baba Nanak walks 28,000 kilometers, it was arduous. It wasn't going to be easy. But there's a way you function in life. And this is why I say mere hard work is not going to be enough. There's hard work that's done from a place of wanting something, which is 99% of the hard work we all do. I want to crack an exam. I want to make more money. I want to make my parents proud, right? When you approach life from a place of want, that's approaching life from a place of massive lack. Now, Baba Nanak didn't approach life from a place of want, which is when I read the words that you could be manmukh or self-centered, or you could be gurmukh, centered towards the Almighty. These words didn't make a lot of sense to me, and I thought they were mere spiritual religious terms, except they are pretty actionable and applicable to daily living. You must operate in a manner where you have fervent belief that firstly, the divine is looking out for you. And if the divine is looking out for you, you see how when you have a parent that says, you know what, don't trouble yourself, go out there, start your business. If you fail, I've got you. Then you go out with a spirit. Now, I was reading one of these letters that Vincent van Gogh, before he killed himself, wrote to his brother. And he says, there's a man that enters a church and he's done with life. He's failed. He's 40 and he hasn't made a lot of money. And he says to God, how did I go so wrong? And what can I do now? And God says, how would you conduct yourself if you hadn't gone wrong? How would you conduct yourself if from today you had this fervent belief that you cannot go wrong? How would you then conduct yourself? And he said, I would conduct myself with a spring in my step. I would hold my chest high, that there's no way I can go wrong. And then God says, that's exactly how I want you to conduct yourself. You are a creation of the divine, and you must conduct yourself with a meaning that is larger than yourself. And that's exactly when effort becomes the expression of a soul in harmony. When you perform an act for a vision that's larger than yourself, that hard work becomes easier to execute. Now, every day you have to do this exercise. It's going to take 2 or 3 minutes. You have to ask yourself, what sort of predominant emotion am I vibrating at? Most humans are grieving something. If you haven't studied for your exams and didn't get a good grade, you are guilty about something and you're shameful, right? A lot of us are pretty much in these states that are marked in red. David Hawkins says below 200, because that's the level below courage. These are degenerative states. You actually consume more energy than you produce. So just existing at these stages is going to require so much effort from you to do the most basic tasks. So that means now waking up is going to become harder. Staying in routine is going to become harder. Sticking with the book, a textbook for 3 hours is going to become harder. The first thing you need to do is analyze what stage you're functioning with. If you are in a negative state, one of the first and the most precise ways to rebalance this energy frequency, firstly, is say yes to life. It's more courage driven. It's like, do you want to come give a speech? Do you think you can do it within a day or two? Absolutely. Why can't I? Right? It's saying more yeses to life. Do you want to prepare this research paper or go for this moot court? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to get this done. I absolutely have no idea how I'm going to get this done, but I'm operating from a place of courage, which is a higher frequency. Secondly, a gratitude exercise. Nothing balances your negative frequencies like a great gratitude exercise. Now, the interesting thing is, being around certain saintly figures tends to have a very good impact on our energy frequency. There are people who walk into a room and you're like, damn, I'm kind of impressed. What is that if not a good energy frequency, right? The reason for you to do the inner work is that if you vibrate at a good energy frequency, you have the potential of counterbalancing negative frequencies of others. So which means if you're vibrating higher, you're improving the lives of your family members. Because sooner rather than later, they're going to notice you, they're going to start to vibrate at your frequencies. Which is why we say you must hang out in the right company at all times. And which is why daily praying is such a beautiful thing. Now, 3 things I want to leave you with. Prayer. Now, David Guillaume likes to build a beautiful analogy. You must pray and deeply pray. You must ask of the Creator, because that Creator is your father and your mother. Ask of it. Be sturdy in your resolve and say, I'm going to do the work, but I ask that you provide me this, and that builds the vessel. But what fills the vessel? Absolute certainty that you are looking out for me, that we're going to get there. And in that process, if you don't get where I want to, we'll get somewhere which is going to be equally beautiful, that fills it. And what keeps it filled, what sustains it, what sustains all the wealth we've made, all the lives we change, is praise, is gratitude. That no matter what you've given me, if you've given me a bad back, there must be some wisdom to this. I thank you for it all. The fact that I can stand up here and speak, I have to be grateful for that. Work on your identity, clarify your environment, and do identity-based work. The most important thing is working in consonance with your identity is everything. One question I ask myself on a daily basis is, what does my ideal self do right now? What does my ideal self do after this? My ideal self says hi to people, expresses gratitude, goes and has lunch with family. That's my ideal self. What does the ideal self do after that? My ideal self goes, hits the gym. My ideal self in this particular moment does not take a nap. Keep asking yourself, and once you do this, please do the work without any sense of attachment. If you're attached to the result, again, you're operating from a place of lack and scarcity, and these are very horrible frequencies. 4 steps, number 1 to 4 are based on the inner work. 5 to 7 are based on the external work. Because like the gentleman preceding me said, hard work is what's it going to take? Absolutely. But 1 to 4 is going to be very important. Deal with the shadow contract. Find out what your self-image is like. Prescribe meaning to your life, to your efforts. There's a lot of meaning which I ascribe to my content, and that helps me stay consistent, especially when things are not going good. Rebuild your self-image. Audit your frequencies daily. If you're operating on a bad frequency, you're not going to act. You're going to align first and then act. And finally, design your environment. Naturally, remove restrictions, delete Instagram, do all of that you need to do. Act from identity, and finally, release the grip. Release the grip that you've had on life. Surrender. Take the process in your hands and trust that the universe will look out for you. And that is how you will become one. So this is the roadmap that I've used to go from about 4,000 followers to 1 million plus. And this is what serves me in my bad times as well, that the universe looks out for me, that the process is in my control, and I shall look out for my identity and keep renewing this contract, lest the contract be taken out of my hands. Thank you so much. I hope this is your reminder to do the inner work, and God bless you all.